I remember you're talking about, what brought you to this country and love for computers and, then going to Oregon. So maybe just a little bit of, the genesis of your love for computing.
Science and math. It was one of those fields that you don't need too many friends for. And, if you're locked up in a bedroom, all by yourself most of your life, that's the right field. But it was always my mom and dad's, they had the American dream. They wanted to pursue the American dream. They wanted their family to grow up here, and they took the chance and brought us here, just like your parents did. And when you come as an immigrant, obviously you don't have that many friends, and English is, English and the culture and all that, but something about science and math is universal. You could wrap your head around it, and, I always loved it. That's it. That's my story. Kind of like yours. You know that all of you know that at the core of creativity and the creative industry is where a great deal of technology were put in service of realizing storytelling. And Shantanu and I both came out of the high-performance computing industry, the computer industry, and very few CEOs in the world has computer graphics in their soul, as deeply as Shantanu. And so we
I'm
share that history.
questions, Jensen. You're answering this time.
Once a CEO, always a CEO. You got
but
the two of us fighting to see who's in charge.
I think it was actually 8 years ago on this very stage. We had talked about some of the fundamental innovation that Nvidia was doing, ray tracing. And when I think about what you have done, you've completely reinvented the company so many times, from the core graphics to PC to scientific computing, deep learning, and now, at CES when we were talking, you also said about physical objects and innovation. So maybe just a little bit before we get into software. What excites you about what's happening with physical AI innovation and robotics?
Well, ultimately, the vast majority of the world is physical. And if we want to be able to apply computing really for the first time to some of the largest industries in the world, whether it's life sciences or logistics and manufacturing or transportation, unless the computer can understand the physical world, there is no chance of enhancing it, no chance of automating it. And we're finally at a time where if you simply realize that if you can go from language to images, images to language, why can't we go from language to chunks of actions, which is articulation? Why can't we go from camera input to action? Vision, language, action models, just like LLMs, these are VLAs. And so we now have the ability to go directly from one sensory input to direct actioning on the computing system or the physical system. But in order to do that, you have to understand the physical world.